If you're a flaming trash heap of a person, colloquially known as a millennial, just like me, chances are browser games formed an important part of your life growing up. Whether you were trying not to get caught in the school library and you've had your fill of kid pics in the Amazing Machine, or maybe you're stuck in an old CRT monitored desktop in the musty study, browser games were free, accessible, and catalyzed the explosion of the indie development scene. Anyone with a copy of various forms of Flash and a decent knowledge of ActionScript could throw together their own platformer, Space Invaders clone, or clicker game. As more games blew up in popularity, from team-headed juggernauts like Club Penguin and RuneScape to smaller independent projects, the world of online browser games was a wild west for experimentation, exploitation, and a reckless abandon for intellectual property. The advent of Flash smashed our prior idea of the web page. Suddenly, they were interactive and dynamic beyond anything we'd ever seen before. People were designing entire websites in this thing, and eventually games built in it would see physical releases in and of themselves, such as The Binding of Isaac. Respected and long-standing websites such as Newgrounds, miniclip, GameJolt, and Congregate have built themselves around the advent of browser gaming. Back in the early to mid-2000s, you couldn't go a day without a friend grabbing your mouse and keyboard and showing you some awesome new experience that was making its rounds on the web. Today, I'm gonna dive into the world of browser games I grew up with, and I'm only scratching the surface as I'm unlocking the nostalgia vault here. Obviously, I'm gonna avoid the time-tested games you already know and love, stuff like Happy Wheels, Cookie Clicker, Alien Hominid, that sort of thing, and share some of the lesser talked about or less remembered experiences that stuck to me to this day. Bubble Struggle 2. Rebubbled. Whoo boy, did this one blow up around my school. Eventually, it got so out of hand that teachers had to ban it outright, adding it to our Netscape content filter. The game itself wasn't anything ultra special, but it had an addictive hook that a lot of these puzzle games do. The gameplay consists of trying to hit these bouncing bubbles and juggle them as they split into more bubbles. A simple game of special awareness and situation management, coupled with reflex and timing. The more bubbles you can pop before they hit the ground, a higher combo bonus you'll get. Bundle that with a time bonus that rewards quick level completion, levels with simple barriers and switch gimmicks to divert the flow of gameplay, and you've found yourself a formula for a popular and addictive puzzle game. Of course, our yearning young hearts needed something to latch onto, and without Rebubbled, we were starved and drained like anchovies in an obstacle course. Luckily, your boy had the computer smarts and whimsy to rip the SWF flash file from the site and copy it to a floppy disk our school had given us each for personal use. This is a floppy disk for those of you unaware. It was pretty much a USB mixed with French toast and could only fit a very small amount of data, and go around the class putting it into people's computers so that they could copy it to their personal student folder. Year 5 primary school class, you are welcome for my heroism. Takagizm's Escape series. Escape rooms were a huge genre on Flash browser platforms. Not only did they require minimal coding, but they could be presented as simple one-perspective views than the disguising an array of buttons with rudimentary art. A lot of solutions are very basic, and a lot of them were fast, superficial puzzle experiences. Of course, the basic concept of the escape room is likely familiar to you. The rise in number and popularity of real-life escape rooms as party and family or function event experiences, encouraging teamwork and intuitive thinking as attendants scramble to find clues and hidden items to escape from a locked and often themed room. The color-themed series of escape rooms, created by Japanese developer Toshimitsu Takagi, went above and beyond in terms of presentation for the time. Featuring rudimentary 3D environments and an emphasis on minimalism and ambiguity, the solutions to its puzzles ranged from brain-tickling to downright frustrating. They were undeniably very creative, Toshimitsu himself being an experienced visual artist and making various short animated videos in Flash prior. The most famous of the series is easily The Crimson Room, a game that became so popular that it even gained itself a physical release as a Nintendo DS port in Japan, which included the other games but sold itself under the Crimson Room name. Additionally, there was also a PSP physical release called Crimson Room Reverse, which heavily modified the puzzle to allow it to be played in a different way. Even as recently as June 2016, the game received a Unity-powered follow-up set 10 years after the original game supposedly took place, adding a story and context to the room as well as modern rendering tricks and first-person controls. Hell, I like this series so much, I even made a 3D recreation of the Blue Chamber inside of Unreal 4, in the hopes of learning the ropes on how to make my own escape room games. Beating these games without a walkthrough was a bragging right, as walkthroughs were hard to come by when the games first hit the web. Unfortunately, the OG version of the Crimson Room requires visiting a URL to generate a key code that no longer works. If you can get your hands on a copy of the DS game, however, the puzzle is restructured to accommodate offline play as you'd probably expect. Thankfully, the other entries of the series don't suffer this issue and are still playable online today. Mystery of Time and Space. Whilst Mystery of Time and Space, or MOTAS for short, is lumped in with the escape room genre, it's really more of a first-person point-and-click game. Theming itself around theoretical physics and plenty of science fiction to help, MOTAS is a strange journey through a hotel-like facility filled with strange mechanisms, inefficient security devices, witty observations, and living paintings. A lot of these puzzles are a lot of fun to solve, even if the solutions are a bit left field and the difficulty spikes at random instead of being a smooth incline. For example, an early puzzle in the game involves the player remembering and picking out very minor discrepancies between similar images. Some of them are obvious, like this simple math puzzle, sometimes they're quaint, like this one where you have to pick the one that's not a memory integer, and sometimes they're... what? Okay. The music for this game was real groovy, although working mirrors for the game no longer included, and the presentation is top-notch, including a menu system and bonus features seldom seen in any Flash game. Robot Rage. In the world of browser games, we didn't just have Flash. This might tickle the memory sensors for some of you, but there was also a browser-enabled 3D environment called Shockwave. Whilst not nearly as popular, it allowed developers to really push what was capable inside of a browser window, with 3D environments, textures, models, all rendered in real time. No other Shockwave game ever stuck with me as much as the legendary Robot Rage though. Similar to shows like Robot Wars and Robot Rumble, the game featured small arenas for glorified RC cars adorned with an arsenal of metal shredding weaponry. Not only did the game impress by featuring 3D online combat against other real-time players, but the extent of customization available to the player was on par with what you'd find in a current racing or other vehicle game on a console at the time. Getting new parts was part of the charm and what got you coming back again and again for more, taking other players down with style. The game is still around today, albeit in a much different form on the Unity engine that I have absolutely no experience with. I may take up the reins and see how the new one handles one day, but the original Robot Rage will always hold a huge place in my heart. Ball Revamped. Rage games are an undeniable part of gaming culture. From things like QWOP to Cat Mario, games built around extremely tight error for margin were popularized by the underlying competitive spirit in all of us, no matter how deeply buried. For me, there was no contender to the Ball Revamped series. Featuring simplistic backgrounds and rudimentary geometry, you play as a small ball which you must constantly push up against gravity and move along the level to get to the exit portal. There were many iterations of the game, all created by the same solo developer, but no game was shy in giving you a generous amount of levels, complete with secret worlds, warps, power-ups, gravity tricks, and you can bet the difficulty just skyrockets the further you get in. A game that respawns you instantly, it wastes no time urging you to give a level another shot on the back of an instant failure, sinking its claws in until you beat the final level. Bullet Bill. Whilst there was no shortage of quality recreations and fan-made sequels of existing properties, Ultimate Flash Sonic was a particular standout, for example, but coming across a fan game that created an entirely new gameplay concept out of a franchise was always a fun discovery. Bullet Bill puts you in control of, well, a Bullet Bill, traveling from world to world with the aim of tucking down Mario and taking him down. Functioning as an auto-scroller, the more risks the player takes by killing other enemies and smashing blocks, the higher the score a player gets for beating a level. Margin for error is tight, but like many other addictive games, you can keep trying for as long as you like. There ended up being a few of these, each one expanding on the last and adding more to the mix. It's an awesome time waster and a devious change in perspective for a Mario game. This is likely going to be part 1 of an ongoing series of videos looking into browser games. There's so much out there from so many different genres that obviously I couldn't think of them all for this video alone. Browser games were an awesome time for experimentation, for discovery, and sadly the idea among the general populace started to stagnate, with the rise in association with Farmville and Mafia Wars and all that Facebook crap. Of course, the indie scene outgrew the browser, exploding onto console, Steam, GOG, and the idea of downloading a full executable package from an indie developer off of a website like Congregate or GameJolt became a lot more common. It's sad that the browser scene is a bit of a shell of what it once was, but I'd say, looking at what we have today as a trade-off, it was totally worth it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm gonna leave all the game links in the description. Keep in mind, if you're watching this a fair shake in the future, many of these Flash sites go down, so just drop me a line if any of the links end up expiring. Shoutouts to current patrons Fishstick Mystic, Patrick Sykes, Martin Abbott, and Jay Lewis. I'm so thankful for your support. Let me know what you think of this idea for a sub-series of dub reviews. I'm totally game to keep exploring this side of things. Remember to like if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you want to see more, and let me know in the comments one of your favorite Flash games, current or past. Tune in next week when I do something else. Bye bye.